Again, my name is Hanaa. I am the laboratory manager at the Institute for Women's Health, as well as the Institute for Neurology at University College London. My talk today will focus on my early life, my career journey.
Hanaa, sorry to interrupt you. Can you click on the big screen, the show one? Yeah, maybe.
Can you
they look
see?
fantastic slide. It will be nice
Can you
to see
see?
them. We see them, but can you click on the, you know, the screen one, the big show, to show it in a big...
Oh, sorry. Can you see it now?
Perfect, because they look very nice. And if you can hide this, stop share. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
Because you did a lot of work making this nice slide. It's better to enjoy them. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, so as I said, I'll just go through a background of my career, the achievements, as well as some challenges, developing in a leadership role, as well as implementing sustainability in the workplace. So just quickly, just a bit about myself. I come from a North African Moroccan Arab background. My parents were both born in Morocco. They immigrated to England over nearly 40 years ago now. I was born in a city just outside of Sheffield. I graduated in 2009 with a degree in biomedical sciences. I took a short career break, had a child, then moved it down to the City of Lights in London. And in 2014, I began my career at University College London at the Institute of Child's Health. I had another quick break, having another child, and then after that returned to take up a secondment position in laboratory management. During that time, I also took up the role at the Institute of Neurology as a research assistant. Fast forward to 2020, just before the pandemic, I took on my role now as laboratory manager at the Institute of Women's Health, as well as becoming the brain bank manager at the Institute of Neurology. So that was kind of a promotion for me. Now, I'd just like to highlight a few of my achievements as a laboratory manager, which has been great for me because it's made me be able to capitalize on my role and open quite a few doors, especially in terms of developing the laboratory framework there, because when I took over the role, there was a bit of a vacuum in terms of management, health and safety, as well as the area needed to be developed, especially because of the cutting edge research that was being produced there. It did not reflect in the facilities. So I did spearhead quite a few projects, which was to acquire some funding, which totaled up to around £60,000 for some new ultra low temperature storage, specifically -80. And that was great because it did help in terms of our sustainability. We did have a number of old -80 freezers. We were able to remove quite a few and install some new, more energy efficient and also more generally efficient in terms of storage as well. I did develop and overhaul the health and safety management systems, which included making sure that we had a stringent induction process, ensuring that all new starters had completed their mandatory training, made sure that they were aware of all fire safety, as well as all risk assessments being in place for their work during their time at the Institute. I also project managed a very successful bid in terms of refurbishing a lot of the laboratories, a lot of the storage systems there. I was able to be to lead on the funding process as well as the proposals, which totaled up to £120,000, and that was a great improvement for the labs as well. The Institute also did not have a specific containment level 2 facility for work, specifically for working with human tissue, and there was unfortunately a bit of cross-contamination, but now we have a designated area, designated lab, which only focuses on human tissue work, and it is all within the containment level 2 framework. I also implemented and led on projects to develop a more sustainable environment, especially within the laboratories, as this is something that has become quite a big focus in terms of science and research in whole. And that brings me on to sustainability in the laboratory. So I'm sure many of you are aware, but laboratory-based research of course, is essential for advancing society, but it is very energy and resource intensive. There is a lot of waste within the laboratories, very much so in terms of unused reagents, kits, chemicals being left just sat on benches, on shelves, which could easily be repurposed. And unfortunately, a lot of the time they just end up in landfill. It is estimated that laboratories are responsible for around 2% of global plastic waste and use 3 to 10 times more energy per meter square than a typical office. And that usually is down to high numbers of ultra low temperature storage, many fridge freezers that are in constant use within the laboratory. So that brings me on to what UCL is doing in terms of the sustainable world, and that is they've introduced something called LEAF. So what is LEAF? LEAF is the Laboratory Efficiency Assessment Framework, and that is has been developed by UCL and is in over 85 global institutions, and that is to help address the climate and ecological emergencies that happen in science. And it is a program mainly to drive sustainability within laboratories. The program comprises of 4 elements, which is the framework. So that is the tool used to implementing sustainability within the laboratory. So that may be help increasing the temperatures of ultra low freezers, maybe from minus 80 to minus 70, making sure that any benchtop equipment that can be switched off or powered down when not in use is implemented, and also changing the culture in general. So there is more reuse, more sharing throughout laboratories and different departments, and also really thinking about when purchasing new equipment, if it's okay to buy secondhand, to also borrow, to maybe set up subscription service where different laboratories may share equipment instead of ultimately going to purchase new equipment. I will also stress that currently now many funders within the UK, specifically the Wellcome Trust and CR UK, are making LEAF a prerequisite for when they grant funding. So each lab who is applying for funding must have achieved the bronze, at minimum the bronze award, to being able to have the funding for their work. So this program is very important, and as I mentioned, the 4 elements of this are the framework, online calculators, toolkits and resources. So there's a lot of resources on the LEAF web pages that can be accessed nationally and internationally, and improving user engagement, ensuring that everyone within lab groups are really working to a more sustainable environment, as I mentioned earlier. Tying into that, part of my work at the Epilepsy Society Brain and Tissue Bank, when I first started, which very much ties into sustainability, I suppose, is the restoration of a very large collection of brain tissue that had been acquired by Professor John Casellas. So the Casellas collection is a large brain collection of over 900 samples from patients with epilepsy that date back from 1950 to 1997. And this important archive was transferred to the Epilepsy Society Brain and Tissue Bank, which was a thorough overhaul of all of the samples, of all the clinical data, all of the original slides and the reports. Everything was all in paperwork. We had reviewed everything, uploaded it onto a database and restored the brain tissue. So the brain tissue was recut, re-embedded, sectioned, and modern immunohistochemistry was applied to these samples, and it brought it up to date and implemented the current WHO criteria for reclassification of pathology in epilepsy. So it was fantastic because these samples had been sat in archive for a number of years, and now we have a big bank of the collection that is available for many researchers nationally and internationally to implement in their current work. So with achievements do come some challenges, and personally for myself, I have come across and I have experienced some challenges in my work as a senior staff member. And I do want to highlight them because, of course, with challenges, we have to overcome them. And for me personally, coming from a Black and ethnic minority background and a Muslim woman who's visibly Muslim, attending senior staff meetings and having to submit monthly reports to directors, to stakeholders, to heads of department, did sometimes leave me with the feeling of imposter syndrome, wondering whether I'm capable to be able to develop and to produce reports of a high standard and be able to, implement my strategies. So sometimes I was left feeling, is this position right for me? Do I have a seat at the table at such a high level? And also working within an environment where health and safety is very important, and sometimes witnessing rule breaking, having to place my assertiveness and being able to, sometimes so much having to tell people, no, this is wrong, you cannot do this, did also create a bit of a challenge for me. But hopefully I'm moving on the right track and tackling this. Again, becoming the lab manager, especially at the Institute of Women's Health, which did have limited management, and a lot of the time researchers were left to their own device, developing policies, creating strategies without having, so to speak, a mentor or someone within the same field. Sometimes did cause me to, wonder which type of direction should I take, especially in terms of assertiveness and developing policies. As well as being a mum to 3 children, having to strike the work-life balance was sometimes a challenge, especially because I have aspirations and want to develop and continue on my journey in leadership. So with challenges, you always have to overcome these challenges and continue to progress. And for me, these 4 main top points were the best way for me to move forward and to develop within my leadership roles. Number 1, for sure, is being myself. So as I feel as I am an ambassador for my cultural background, for my religion, for my being a female amongst very few within senior leadership roles, excuse me. I believe it's very important to embrace this and use this uniqueness as a strength, and also to develop my skills and excel. I think that being unique and being someone from a different background is a strength and not a weakness. Capable and competencies, being capable and being competent is something that's very important in terms of leadership, providing direction, coordinating action, developing strategies, and also transferring them depending on where you are is something that's very important as well. Always being proactive, so looking for opportunities to develop, whether that be taking up a secondment role to improve your skill set, which is something that I did very on in my career. So spotting them roles that can help you, leading on projects. That is a great way to enforce leadership as well, and to create a reputation for yourself, to show that you are capable, whether that be something small or even something large is a great way as well. Also taking up mentoring. So within UCL, we do have a mentorship program, whether that you yourself becoming a mentor for junior members, or you taking up advice from a mentor, whether that be your manager or someone else within different disciplinary teams. Training, of course, is something that's very important, continuing to learn and develop, taking advantage of training courses, any workshops, and also looking for opportunities to gain additional qualifications is something that's really important to develop professionally. And that brings me on to hone in on women in leadership. So unfortunately, I do feel throughout the board, whether it be in the education sector, women are still quite underrepresented in leadership roles, and Black and ethnic minority groups are significantly underrepresented at senior levels, and BAME women are even more smaller in this group. So just to give you a quick example, in the education sector, women account for 65% of secondary school teachers, but only 40% of them are head teachers. And just 6% of these are head teachers that are women from an ethnic minority background. And in the case at UCL, for the previously report that was submitted for the equality, inclusion, and diversity data report, it was on a much smaller scale as well. So only 6% of all senior level at UCL are BAME females, and slightly higher is 7% are BAME men. And just quickly, white male staff are 4 times more likely to be in a senior role than BAME female staff. UCL has recognised this, and they are, developing strategies and working towards employing more women in leadership roles and encouraging members of staff who are from Black and ethnic minority backgrounds to take up training and to develop their skills, and encouraging to go for them promotions and go for roles that are more senior. So leadership competencies. For me, I feel there are a number of categories where you can hone in and become more competent in leadership. As I mentioned earlier, empowering your leadership, being proud of your background, using that as a type of way to create an inclusive culture, and having that as an advantage, not a disadvantage, is great to improve in your leadership skills. Developing and learning from others, using mentoring, as I mentioned earlier, is a great way as well. Taking advice, taking up training courses. Also, navigating challenges is one that can help you to improve your leadership competencies by becoming more resilient, tackling unconscious biases and discrimination that still unfortunately does occur, but being able to, push back on that. Being an ambassador, taking time out to converse with fellow colleagues, that can break boundaries, can break them unconscious biases that people may have, especially as a woman from Black ethnic minority background in a leadership role. Amplifying your network. Again, networking, speaking to colleagues, developing strategies, translating your skills through different areas in your work is another way to hone in on your leadership skills. So just a few key takeaways from my talk today. As I mentioned, it's you who defines your own success. There is no high point or low point, or personally, I believe it's always a journey. At one point, it might be great for you to take a time out to develop your skills and not always push for the next promotion. At the same time, it's always important to take advantage of any opportunities that may occur, whether that be within your own team or externally. Oh, apologies. Continuing to develop, continuing with training, and being not afraid to break that glass ceiling, tackling any imposter syndrome. And also the very common one is the inferiority complex that sometimes women of Black and ethnic minority backgrounds may feel, sometimes not being, maybe pushing back or not putting their hand up for that, idea that they had, or having a seat at the table, feeling that they're not good enough and they won't be listened to. If you don't ask, you don't get, or if you don't, make your point, you won't be heard. So it's very important to do that and power through, because you will also be a role model to other staff who may be watching, who may feel like they may not have the opportunity, but maybe they could. And again, it's also okay to say no. It might not be the time for you to go for that leadership role or for that senior position at that time, because you still need to develop on your skill set, or you need time, whether that be for family or work-life balance. But as I believe, I don't think it's necessary. There should be a pinpoint and a timeline for every point in your career. So thank you for listening, and I hope you found that interesting.